You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
All right, everybody, that music means it's time to roll out the interview chair over here on the network once again. My name, of course, Mark Longo, coming at you from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as from the aforementioned network. Reminding you, wherever you're listening to our content, make sure you're subscribed to the full network. And, of course, if you're ready to go above and beyond, join us over there on the Pro. A lot of fun going on, giveaways, live streams, exclusives, even fantasy football, all kinds of fun going on. Theoptionsinsider.com/pro, the place to go to learn more about that. As we learn more about a good cause today, I'm pleased to welcome back on our old pal, Mr. Mead Welles, the co-founder and chairman of ALTSO, aka A Leg to Stand On. Mead, welcome back to the network, sir. Hard to believe it's been a year already.
I know, Mark. Thank you for having me again. It's good to reconnect.
Let's catch up then. It's been pretty much exactly a year since our last chat about all things ALTSO, aka A Leg to Stand On. I know a lot of our listeners are familiar with it. Obviously, we have new listeners joining all the time who may not be familiar with it. So let's start there, sir. Catch our new folks up. What the heck are we talking about? What are we standing on? What is A Leg to Stand On, sir?
Well, that's a good question. But A Leg to Stand On is a registered 501c3 nonprofit based in New York City that helps children in developing countries that have limb disabilities. These are children that were born with birth defects or without limbs. They could be children that had a disease that led to a deformity of a limb, or it could be a result of a traumatic injury. We see often in emerging markets, buses are overloaded. Families are trying to take their entire, kids and all the groceries on a moped, or you might see several kids playing on the back of a tractor. All it takes is one fall, and if a child can't get to the hospital within a reasonable time frame, gangrene will set in, and so the only recourse is to amputate. So we have a much higher incidence of limb amputations, particularly upper extremity, meaning in the arms, than we see in the West. And what we do is simply provide free corrective surgery and artificial limbs, as well as the mobility devices like wheelchairs, specially designed crutches, and those types of things to help children regain their mobility and have the access to education, the access to run and play with their friends, the access to be like all other children of their age. And then that leads to getting jobs and being more of a contributor in society. So it's a very positive impact.
Can I see here, is that right? Did you co-found this in 2002? Has it been that long? Has it been over 20 years, sir? It seems hard to believe.
It has been. Well, the best sign of that is my hairline. I had a lot of hair back then, and now I have none. So yeah, it's been 20, we're going on 24 years, two 12-year decades, I should say, or 2.5 decades almost.
Well, a lot to get to. Let's start out with this year's events. If you're familiar with A Leg to Stand On, listeners, they have a lot of great signature events, including their upcoming Rocktoberfest events. It actually kicks off this week on Thursday, sir. If you're in the NYC area, NYC adjacent listeners, I know a lot of you are, then you should be heading over to the Hard Rock this Thursday, October 16th. And then, of course, if you're in the Chi-Town area like myself, you should be checking out the upcoming Rocktoberfest at the House of Blues on Thursday, October 23rd. So, Mead, a busy couple of weeks coming up for ALTSO. What can the folks look forward to? What the heck is Rocktoberfest, sir?
So, Rocktoberfest is our funnest and biggest event of the year. We have one in New York City and one in Chicago, Mark, as you pointed out correctly. The New York City event is this Thursday, the 16th of October at the Hard Rock Cafe. It's where a series of bands will perform sets of live rock music in front of an audience of their peers. And it's just a lot of fun because you're seeing a lot of these bands are actually made up of hedge fund and finance professionals for the most part, and they're very, very accomplished. So it's a really great opportunity to celebrate and listen to some good music, meet some new people, network. There are a lot of people in the finance industry that attend, and do it all to raise awareness and funds for a leg to stand on. And the event in Chicago is actually a week from Thursday at the House of Blues on the 23rd. And again, we've got 5 bands, really fantastic bands that play a whole mix of music from the 60s, 70s, 80s, all the way up to today, and the things you're hearing on the radio. So it really appeals to anyone of any background that loves music and likes to do good.
Listeners, I can confirm that I have been to the Chicago event multiple times. And A, it is a great networking event, a lot of great people floating around. And B, if you're a music aficionado and you're going and you're thinking, oh man, it's going to be a bunch of guys from The Office and they're going to sound terrible. No, I'm always hard pressed, Mead. I'm always amazed. I'm always hard pressed to think these are guys from whatever firm. They sound like they're actual professional musicians. So the quality of the music doesn't suffer either, Mead, which I think for some folks who are worried about that, you get a high quality of performance on top of the networking and everything else, Mead.
That's true. I mean, it shouldn't be any surprise because these people are very accomplished in their fields, and they take it very seriously, and they apply the same dedication and enthusiasm to their musical instruments. And this is an opportunity for them to kind of let their hair down if they have hair, and get on stage and jam. And it's not often that you get to play in front of a live audience of this size. And it really amps everybody up. So it's kind of like an American Idol, and in that, but there's no judging. We don't judge there, but it's a lot of fun.
I judge secretly. I don't tell anyone my scores, but I judge, sir.
I know. So the stress is there, and nobody wants to fail on stage. So it's really kind of an exciting event in that regard.
It's a great venue too. I mean, if you're an aspiring musician of any caliber, to play at the House of Blues is pretty cool. You don't get that venue very often if you're just trying to do a little side fun gig. So that in and of itself has to be fun. Speaking of a stage, when are we going to get you on stage? I know you've been threatening for a long time, Mead, to put together your own little band. How are we progressing on that front? How's your triangle work coming?
Well, my band was the original band that started the event. So, but as I got older and I had kids, moved away, it was more difficult to stay in a band. And I'm now living in Charlotte, North Carolina, but I commute kind of to New York for work. And I may do a cameo this year, but last year I did, but I don't know yet. It's undetermined, so you'll have to come and find out. But I love it. It's such a great opportunity to get up there, and I play a few different instruments. I'm self-taught, and to be able to get on stage and play at the House of Blues or the Hard Rock Cafe, it's really a bucket list kind of check item. So that's a wonderful thing. And for those that don't want to be in the main stage room with the loud music, there is an acoustic room at both events where people play unplugged, and it's neat because it's more kind of low key coffee house type of playing, and you get to see a different side of people and the music. So there's something for everybody at these events.
Speaking of something for everyone, Mead, you added a new wrinkle. You're always adding cool new updates and different facets to the event. And this year, I was joking earlier about the triangle, but we're not that far away from that this year with your new, more cowbell addition to the event. I have to admit that brought a chuckle to my face. What are we talking about? What can I get with a little bit more cowbell, sir?
Well, a little bit more cowbell. We have the way the bands work is that those bands that raise the most money get to pick their slots, and they can choose, what part of the event they play in. And it's really interesting to see these guys compete with each other. And everybody's very, very competitive. So it's the bands are just incredible, and we have amazing sponsors too that are back in this. Adium Investor Services has been there for many years. They're big on this. We've got all sorts of different bar chart and Belvedere Trading and the CBOE Globe Tax Jam Partners. It's just a great group of sponsors that get up and help make this a reality.
And the cowbell, that's someone that can actually get on stage this year, right?
Yeah, we've got a little cowbell activity. Again, we don't want to let all the secrets out. We got to get people there to see what's going on and kind of leave a little bit of a secret behind the screen. So you got to come and check it out. You'll see amazing things.
Well, I definitely encourage you listeners, if you're in New York, again, that's coming up this Thursday. So the clock is ticking. October 16th at the Hard Rock. And then here in Chi-Town at the House of Blues next week. And let's talk a little bit about the funds you're raising from this meet. You kind of touched on it at the top of the show, but you're working on new prosthetic limbs for these kids. You have developed some really cool, interesting stuff like the Joshi. So tell the folks a little bit about what the money's going towards.
So the money goes to the children. We make sure that the money isn't being used for any other purpose than the stated purpose, which is to provide free prosthetics and the mobility aids and corrective surgery, when needed and where we can. Um, we do this from the ages of birth all the way until 25 years old. And we have designed our own prosthetic limb, which we have named after the original prosthetic engineer that we worked with in India, Joshi, who's been just an amazing individual, just a great human being, and helped to change the lives of so many children. Dinesh Patel, who helped me found A Leg to Stand On, he was the chief of arthroscopic surgery at Mass General, and he was also a clinical professor at Harvard Medical School. He's the one that pioneered the concept of arthroscopic surgery. So he worked with Smith and Nephew in the UK to design the utensils that are today used to conduct arthroscopic surgery worldwide. He's won awards worldwide. And he was the one that introduced us to the hospitals in India initially, and Darren was there. But we've designed this kind of very modern, very cost-effective, but very efficient device for a prosthetic leg called the Joshi. And it looks really trendy and cool, unlike the traditional old school prosthetics which would be wood and look very kind of pirate-like. So the kids today, when we give them these limbs, they have a whole new lease on life. They might have been dependent upon their parents to help carry them or take them or wheel them from one place to the next, and that was a big burden on the family. These are families that come from very little means, and when parents have to take care of a child, it takes them away from work, and that creates resentment and it creates issues at home. But moreover, the child doesn't have the ability to do what they want, when they want, where they want. So by giving them a leg or legs or arms, they now can actually be a proactive participant in life. And we take it for granted, because when we've got full use for our legs and arms, we don't even think about how difficult life would be. But if you can imagine waking up without arms, how would you brush your teeth? How would you go to the bathroom? How would you get dressed? How would you feed yourself? If you have an itch on your nose, how do you itch your nose? I mean, these are simple little things that we take for granted. And so the work we do is not just solving for the disability, the mobility issue. It's also relieving the trauma that comes with that, which all these children have to to endure. And that's hard. Children don't want to be the source of attention when it's negative attention. And when children have limb disabilities in developing countries, they don't have the social graces in these countries where they're taught not to stare. So what happens is, if they're walking down the street or they're being wheeled down the street, everybody stops and stares, and nobody wants that. That's a very traumatic thing to have to deal with. And by solving for it, we're giving the child an opportunity to be like all the other children, which is all they want to do. And more importantly, we're taking that emotional burden of being the center of attention, negative attention, away. So the Joshi's been an amazing part of that. The limb is, we've been able to negotiate to get the cost down below $250 to produce what would be a multiple, like many $1,000 device here in the United States. And it'll allow for the child to grow with the limb. We can replace the boot, which the stump goes in. We can adjust the size of it so as they grow, they don't have to actually transition to a new limb. It can be just extended. And that way it becomes, from a cost standpoint, a much more practical way to address the issue. And so our goal is to make sure that we're maximizing the use of every dollar donated. And we want these to go to the kids and not to administrative expenses. We only have 4 to 5 people. One's an administrative person on the staff at A Leg to Stand On. And we're helping thousands of kids every year. We've been doing so for 24 years. So that's kind of the background.
That's wild. You mentioned the thousands of kids. I know it's hard you've been doing it for so long. It's probably hard to have an accurate tally, but ballpark, over the years, how many limbs do you think you've distributed, and how many kids have you folks actually worked with and helped?
Well, we're over 25,000 kids. We've got operations in 12 different countries, ranging from Latin America to Southeast Asia, the Middle East. We've got Afghanistan, we've got Cambodia, we've got Nepal, Argentina, we've got it in Eastern Europe. So we're worldwide, but we spend a lot of time to identify project partners. These are program partners that we work with in these different countries. And we need to make sure that they are, number one, qualified, that they're ethical, that they're going to continue to provide services that would be at a level that we expect them to provide, and that we can trust that they'll do things the right way. And every time we sign a new partner up, we do all the due diligence on them to make sure that they're a dependable, reliable, credible program partner. And then we provide primarily the components. If we send cash, there's always the risk that cash will be used for other things. But if we send the Joshi components or other components for the arms or for wheelchairs, that one of the big things is appropriately fitted wheelchairs. It sounds, like it's not a big deal, but if you put a child in an adult wheelchair, it's extremely difficult for them to operate it, because the wheels are big, the seat's much wider, and they can't reach over and reach the wheels. So it's basically useless. So getting appropriately fitted wheelchairs for children is a critical thing. And we're giving thousands of wheelchairs out. We work in these different countries, and we make sure that when we give the items, we get before pictures, after pictures, and patient intake forms, which give us the background of the patient, the age, how the injury occurred or how the disability occurred, and then what we've done to remedy that. And then that child becomes part of our family until they're 25 years old.
Well, listeners, I definitely encourage you, if you can, if you're in the Chicago or New York area, make sure you're checking out the event in New York. Again, coming up this week, October 16th, or next week in Chi-Town. I will be there. Maybe that's a plus, maybe that's a minus for you. Either way, I will be there next week for the event in Chicago. I can't recommend it enough. It's a great event. But that said, Mead, we have a lot of listeners listening around the country and indeed around the globe who can't be in the Chi-Town or New York City area, but they can still participate and help kids get their hands or their legs on a Joshi out there. If they want to learn more and participate in other ways, Mead, where should they go? What should they do?
That's great, Mark. The website for A Leg to Stand On is the acronym for A Leg to Stand On, ALTSO.org. You can Google A Leg to Stand On, nonprofit or limb disabilities, and you'll find us as well. But when you go there, you'll find various ways to help. One is obviously to give, and that can be done via credit card or check or wire payment. You can donate stock. There are all sorts of different ways to give. The other way is by spreading awareness. We've seen a lot of families use this as an opportunity to teach their children how fortunate they are, and they will conduct fundraisers, a bake sale, or it might be like a mini not a marathon, but like a run event where it's incorporating others to donate or pledge money in case if people are able to finish the run. There are workout programs where it can be like a spin class where you're spinning for a leg to stand on, or a HIIT, high intensity training class where you'll do it for a leg to stand on. So there are many ways to get involved. We are also happy to take donations in physical form. But we're just grateful for any support that people are willing to give. You can find out all about us by going to our website. Again, it's ALTSO.org. And on there, you'll see a link to the Rocktoberfest events where you can buy tickets. I would encourage you to get those early. And, we hope to see it at either Chicago or New York.
I can't recommend them highly enough, listeners. Check it out. I will be at the Chicago event. Check out the New York event. And if you can't make either of those, but you still are intrigued, you want to learn more, at the end of the day, it's all about helping out some cool kids then head on over to ALTSO.org. That's a leg to stand on. ALTSO.org is the place to go to learn more. And Mead, I will see you coming up on the 23rd here in Chicago. Congratulations again on, over 2 decades of helping now 25,000 cool kids. That's quite an accomplishment. You should be proud, sir. And I'm looking forward to more great events this year, sir.
Thank you, Mark. I look forward to seeing you next week, and look forward to seeing all the people out there that can make it. Appreciate the time, and God bless you all.
And listeners, check it out again, ALTSO.org. That's going to do it for us here on our interviews today. Not going to do it for us on the network. Back again in a little bit to wrap up another wild day in the markets with the Hot Options Report. And then back again with our usual array of content until we roll out the interview seat once again for another Options Insider radio interview. Until then, stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.